Good evening. Today the episode will be completely different. My name is Mohammad Abdallah. I have already been on this podcast in an episode related to invasive plant species, but today we're gonna be doing a complete different format by asking about the podcast, the purpose of this podcast, and the person responsible for this podcast. So at the beginning of this episode, I want welcome Mira, and I want
Well, thank you very much for this introduction, Muhammad, and thank you for having me.
you're welcome.
Well, can we start off by a little introduction on you and your background?
Yeah, definitely. I work on invasive species. I have a PhD on invasive species. I have already worked on few invasive species in Lebanon, and it's a topic that's really interesting. It's happening a lot in Lebanon, and it's a topic of concern, especially with the idea that invasive species have a really negative impact on the ecosystem. It's for the people who are not familiar with invasive species are non-native plants that come from different ecosystem, coexist on a new area or new environment, and have a negative impact on the hosting ecosystem by disturbing the ecosystem functioning and everything related to such things. So I work on investigating their impact, but also now I'm working on a project related to rearrange and re-understand their distribution under climate change scenarios, especially targeting scenarios in 2030 and 2050. We as me as a listener and also as a scientist, I'm really interested to know this podcast because the ideas was very interesting, given that I am a listener to a lot of scientific podcasts all over the world, and I never occurred to me in my mind there's gonna be one Lebanese, and since I have already heard one from Lebanon, I was really fascinating that, oh, finally, there is someone putting the light on all of us scientists in Lebanon, giving also our situation in Lebanon as a scientist is not the best. We lack a lot of funding and a lot of things, but at least to have this idea to talk about our science, and which is big thank you from our side to you. And we want to know how you started and who you are as a scientist and who you are as a person behind this podcast.
Okay, well, firstly, thank you for taking the time to come on this podcast again so that we are able to do this talk. I really appreciate it. And so, my name is Mira Boustani. I studied agriculture and engineering, and at my at the end of my agricultural engineering program, I started developing an unhealthy obsession with wildflowers, so native wildflowers, and wild pollinators. I can't tell you exactly where the idea came from, but this obsession became the guiding thread for my work and research ever since. So after that, I started looking for a PhD because I wanted to get into research. I went to Belgium and did a PhD, so between Belgium and Lebanon on the bee fauna of Lebanon, so the wild bee fauna of Lebanon. In this PhD, I had a lot of work on the field and, well, a lot of literature and database work. But I also studied the impact of heat stress on some of the wild bee species we have in Lebanon and how the communities change with altitude. So basically, which bee likes to live on which altitude roughly, and how these neighborhoods change as we go up to Ernit Sauda. And after that, I had the opportunity to work on a postdoc position in the same university I did my PhD in, which is the University of Mons in Belgium. And it was on the Red List of the Bees of Europe. So for a year or so, I was co-coordinating the update of that red list. It will come out soon. And after that, I decided to start applying for entomologist jobs because I really wanted to go back to work where I had better feeling of how the projects were started, implemented, and their impact in a sense. So I applied for entomologist jobs, and now I work as an expert entomologist at a French association. That was a bit long, but this is
Yeah.
my background briefly.
That's a very interesting career trajectory. So يعطيك ألف عافية.
Merci.
You're welcome. But now, this is the very interesting question. Like you were talking a lot of your academic career and your academic trajectory, but from where this idea of doing this podcast and recording and documenting these things, where is the background of this podcast, the inspiration behind it, why it was started? Can you walk with us through this procedure and tell us why you have started doing this and what is the inspiration behind it?
Yes, so the very simple answer would be this is something that I always wanted to listen to. So this is the podcast that I wished somebody else would have just done and that I would be able to consume. Because ever since I started working as a researcher, so ever since I started the PhD, I realized how lonely some parts of that procedure or of that journey were, how much time you spend doing work that sometimes never gets published because it goes nowhere. You do a lot of trial and error and also a lot of error.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that go to dead ends, which is completely fine. It is part of the procedure. But this technically means that you spend a lot of time doing very interesting things that potentially no one will ever hear about. And part of it was feeling the need to create a platform where people, well, including myself, could tell these stories, could share all of the amazing things that they were able to see that were not necessarily ending up in an official publication or in some other, official outlet, but just speak about what motivates them, where has their passion started, what they have seen along the way, who are the people that they have met along the way, how this changed their trajectory, and also how we are all collectively able to better the knowledge on the fauna and flora of Lebanon and also, well, a lot of other topics. So this is the short answer. Again, it is the podcast I wish someone had done in my place because it is something that I would have loved to listen to. And eventually I was like, okay, fine, I will just do it myself.
That's really interesting answer actually, and also like the fact that I'm also a scientist and I also lived in Europe and know that how much this is really important topic for people in here. I saw this hope. It was like, oh, okay, at least somebody is appreciating us because we're very few scientists in this country that is already facing a lot of trouble. So to see someone is like make us like a small group and like let's all discuss and talk about this is like really promising. So thank you for this from my behalf and probably other scientists along the way. We're gonna say thank you. But the most important, like, why now? Like why I don't know, like why now? What was this point that you decided like, okay, today I'm gonna be starting this. Nobody took the motivation. I'm gonna be the one doing this. Why now?
Yeah, so again, I'll start with the short answer here. It's because I finally reached a point where I have a bit more time and stability career-wise to be able to take some time on the side and do this. And also, another very strong motivation was, as you know, because you have experienced this, having to work abroad when you are from Lebanon, or I think from the Mediterranean in general, you have to deal with a lot of nostalgia, and you always have half of your mind and half of your heart that is back home and in the mountains back home and on the seashore back home. So I think starting it now is also feeling the need to do this to help me keep this network that I had developed during my work in Lebanon alive and to meet new people doing research, working in the environment, or just, in general, people working in the environmental sector in Lebanon. Yeah, this went everywhere, but I hope I answered the question.
No, you actually answered really well because like I had this following up question like why is it important to you and how it is important to you? You know, the fact that you said you wanted to document that. Why is this as important for you and how exactly?
Well, I think that one of the important points for me in a country like Lebanon is that because of the unstable situation, a lot of us maybe have to leave at some point and work elsewhere. A lot of us have to be in regimes where they go back and forth between Lebanon and other countries. When you work in Lebanon, your research is very often slowed down. You have 1,000 challenges popping up here and there. And sharing it or documenting this journey and sharing it with the world is really sometimes the last thing on your mind. I think it's important to keep the memory of a lot of things that are happening and that are not always easy to follow through with how hard the situation has been in the last years. So this is one aspect of why it is important to me, I would say. And the other important thing is networking. So creating a network where people are like, okay, this is the work I do. I'm here. I know there are some people out there that are interested in this, so let's connect. Let's build projects. Let's communicate. Let's stay in contact. I think this is very important because, again, because environmental work in general and research can be very isolating, you sometimes have the impression that you are working alone, but there are always people out there interested in what you do. And I think that, and I hope that a platform like that would make it easier for people to connect and build more common projects in the future.
Indeed, actually, your last idea was indeed something that when I first discovered the podcast and I started diving into the previous episode that have been recorded, and I never knew that there's also different scientists from different fields who works on different topics, and I was really interested. It's like, oh yeah, there is also other scientists in this small country that must probably share the same struggles in the sense of a lack of data, in the sense of nobody pay attention to us or even pay us in the sense even that way. And that was really interesting point to connect with other scientists more or less that sharing the same passion but also having the same struggle. So yeah, I completely understand. And this question made me also wanted to ask you like what from your journey of recording a lot of episodes and contacting and communicating with all different scientists from different field, what did you learn about science and scientists in Lebanon? And as in what how do you see this in Lebanon and how much scientists in Lebanon are having the word in Lebanese اخذين حقهم or these kind of things like what did you learn about this in Lebanon?
Well, I think the first impression that I had and well that I have is I did not realize that there was so much going on. I knew that there was a lot going on, but there is so much more going on that I did not know about. And this is great. This is exactly like one of the objectives of doing this is having a better idea of everything that is going on, moving forward, kicking off. And I think that just between the people, the researchers and people who work in the environmental field who are living in Lebanon, and between the people who go study or work abroad and then come back to Lebanon and vice versa, there is a lot happening. And I know that it is always frustrating to not be able to work in your own country, but I'm seeing more and more now that this is something that can be also a strength, which is all of us have been forced at some point or have chosen to have connections with other countries abroad to strengthen our expertise, to acquire more skills. And this means that we have a worldwide network of Lebanese naturalists, environmentalists, and researchers who are just, there, ready to use their skills to move the knowledge in Lebanon forward. So, well, this is a very positive point. And the other side of the coin is, of course, as you have said, um, I think research and environmental work in general is underappreciated and underpaid. And this is particularly true in Lebanon because in times of instability and in times of war, it is something that gets pushed way outside of the priority list. So it was already difficult, and now sometimes becomes extremely difficult. I see people moving forward despite all the challenges because we want the projects to go through. But yeah, I do agree that it is a field where you already have to know that you will have lower pay, lower chances of having a stable job, or of being able to follow through with your projects on the long term.
Talking about the long term, did you think this podcast is achieving what you're expecting from it so far? I mean, talking from a personal point of view, like I think the fact of we're having a podcast that is documenting this amazing work that has been done by a lot of scientists in Lebanon, and you're able to give us the platform to connect and communicate. This is like something beyond amazing, and it's beautiful also, like to have this point of referring to, like, oh, okay, there is this scientist who works on this topic is really interesting. Now I can go to this person because I got to know this person because of this podcast. But do you think it is achieving what you, as you originally the one who wanted to create this podcast, it is achieving what you're expecting from it so far?
So on a personal level, I would say to to start on the personal reason that I started it that I mentioned earlier, which is helping me navigate the difficulty of living abroad as being someone that would really love any chance to be able to work on the environment in Lebanon. Yes, it is helping a lot because, as you say, I think it is helping us find the community. It is helping us know that a lot of other people are going through similar things, similar journeys, and there is a lot of motivation to be found in this. And for the purpose of creating
And
or
for
simply,
future directions, where do you see this podcast going?
well, I think I have no idea. When I started it, I did not have any thresholds or numbers or particular, if you want, quantifiable objective in mind. I'm already very happy with all the people I did not know I was able to meet through the podcast. So this is already great. I see myself taking this one step at a time and seeing where it goes organically, by itself. The I think the expansion of the network of people that are being able to connect through it, and also through a lot of other initiatives that are now popping up in Lebanon, um, will dictate how it goes. That well, the other half of my answer would be this. This has started at a time where, after the war, a lot of people, I think, have now realized the importance of environmental conservation initiatives and the fact that we really need to preserve what we still have. And I'm hoping that, again, be it this podcast or other initiatives that have popped up recently, will be able to help people find initiatives that they can be active in, and also just take initiatives themselves for nature conservation, for like rural development projects that they can do with the local communities. So yeah, that's mainly it.
As I previously said, I work on invasive species, but as a person who never had this platform to share their work, what are your advices for me or for anyone who to start sharing their work out there, what are the advices that you're telling us about how to start this?
Okay, so I think that now there is something very like very annoying in the sense that half of your credibility comes from how you sell yourself on social media and what you post on different platforms. So I would encourage you to play the game, even if you don't really like posting on social media a lot. You don't have to post a lot, but I think find like a platform or two that you like. You know, it could be LinkedIn, Instagram, and give yourself like small, feasible objectives. And it could be, for example, speaking about some of the results you had from time to time, speaking about citizen science projects that you are participating in, and using these platforms to be able to promote them to the general public. And in general, like not being shy to chit chat about your work with other scientists, with you know, people who might be interested about it. More people than you think are interested in environmental topics and would be happy having your advice on how they can do more for nature conservation in their own way and at their own scale.
So, thank you so much for your time and also for sharing your journey with us and for informing us about this process, about the process of creating of this podcast, where you're looking forward to this podcast and everything. Thank you so much. And we will be recording another episode to know more about Mira as the scientist, about your work, and hopefully we will be able to do that very, very soon.
Well, thank you very much for your time and for coming up on this podcast for the third time. I really appreciate it. And yes, definitely we will have more to talk about, be it in my research journey or yours. And well, thank you to all the people who have come up on the podcast to talk about their work so far. So looking forward for more.